Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth. Our meeting date is Monday, February 9th, 2025. I'm Mayor Todd Kasenberg and I'll call this meeting to order. I ask the clerk to note our starting time for the minutes is 7 p.m. A warm welcome and greetings are extended to councillors, staff, delegations, and observers who will participate in this meeting, regardless of whether they are physically in attendance in the council chamber in Listowel or being connected through web technologies. We begin tonight's meeting with the playing of O Canada. Those in chambers, as able, are invited to stand. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe peoples. We wish to recognize the long history of Indigenous peoples of Canada and show our respect to them today. We recognize their stewardship of the land. May we all live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship. Tonight's meeting is being streamed live on the Municipality of North Perth YouTube channel and will be available there after this meeting as an archived video. To those of you who are viewing the meeting via the YouTube channel, a warm welcome to you. To those present in the gallery today, by attending a public meeting of the Council, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded. Anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded, and their voice, image, and comments will form part of the live stream. The chair and/or the clerk have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances when deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory, or potentially inappropriate to be published. Attendees are advised they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and/or unacceptable behavior and/or comments. Thank you. This time, as always, I invite your decorum over the course of the coming meeting. You can see a few empty chairs tonight. I do have regrets from Councillors Leanne Andreessen, Matt Richardson, and Deputy Mayor Doug Kellum. Let us move to item 5 of our agenda pertaining to pecuniary interest. Members of Council have full lives with engagement in the community. Sometimes they may find themselves with a potential financial or pecuniary interest in an item at the Council table. Provincial legislation mandates councillors to declare this interest, and in so doing, avoid direct involvement in the consideration of or voting on the item. I invite all councillors with a perceived pecuniary interest, including those who have already so declared in writing, to verbally advise the chair, and public session documentation is to be submitted, if not already done, pursuant to council policies. Councillors may declare now or at any point in the meeting should such interest be recognized. I was not made aware ahead of the meeting of any declarations that were sought. Anyone wishing to make a declaration at this time? I'm not seeing any, so we will move forward. As chair of this meeting, I will manage the flow of proceedings tonight and largely in accord with our agenda and the rules of procedure. Some may be participating remotely by web conference. Should they wish to speak, they may draw the attention of the clerk to this using the conference technology's text chat function. If technical difficulties arise for remote participants, I will advise and try to send some help. We have Simon on duty tonight. Let us now focus on the people's business. Part of that focus is achieved when those in the chamber silence and put away their phones. Regarding item 6 of our agenda, we have a minor variation, and I'm going to ask the clerk to speak to this. Clerk Carter.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg. Through you, tonight we are recommending that the agenda for tonight's meeting be approved as amended to include item 8.1, a delegation from Heather Brewer regarding agenda item 11.4.
Thank you, Clerk Carter. All right, let's turn to the resolution. It sounds like what she said, but we might as well have her speak, right? The resolution is as follows. The agenda for tonight's meeting be approved as amended to include item 8.1, a delegation from Heather Brewer regarding agenda item 11.4. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Johnston moves, seconded by Councillor Anstead. Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Let's move forward to item 7 on our agenda, the so-called consent agenda. Consent items are placed on our agenda because they're believed to be non-contentious, yet they may warrant Council's recognition and/or action. Grouping them tends to expedite our business. However, any councillor wishing to extract an item from the consent agenda for discussion, debate, or individual action may do so. There are 12 items on our consent agenda tonight, including the minutes of our last regular council meeting. Colleagues, anything to extract here for further consideration, or any corrections to the minutes that you'd like seen made? Councillor Rothwell, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg. Good evening, as well as council, staff, and public. I'd like to have item 7.12 discussed. It's the AMO resolution in response to the proposed changes to the Ontario Municipal Employees Retirement System, please.
Okay, thank you. The item 7.12. Anyone else wanting to pull anything from the consent agenda for discussion? Okay, let's turn to you, Councillor Rothwell. You may lead off on this.
Thanks very much, Mayor Kasenberg. As discussed at our last council meeting, this item was to be further discussed at council. Concerns have been expressed from municipalities across Ontario regarding the province's proposed changes to change the governance structure of the Ontario Municipal Employees Retirement System. And again, this is a employee and employer-sponsored fund, and the two corporations that are set up have representatives from those two sides. Let me be clear, the province of Ontario does not contribute one nickel to this plan. And frankly, the proposed reasons for oversight seem to be non-existent, at least as in the legislation in terms of the reasons for the proposed change. I've said before that I myself am a retiree and do have pension through the OMERS plan. And certainly as an employer, being the corporation of the municipality of North Perth, clearly I believe that we should, as a municipality, express our concerns as outlined at the AMO proposed resolution here. As was mentioned previously at the Rural Ontario Municipal Association conference held last month, this item was specifically discussed by many municipalities, and the minister responsible, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, did speak to this issue, but frankly did not address any of the concerns that were expressed. Our hope is that the province of Ontario will reconsider its proposed changes to the governance structure and leave a governance structure that's been in place for over 20 years in place and support that municipalities going forward, as opposed to leaving both municipalities and employees, retirees, uncertain in terms of the proposed changes and what that would mean. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rothwell. If I'm inferring from your intent, you rather like the template resolution, and we should pass it in its entirety as opposed to actually endorsing correspondence, if you will, so that we have clarity about what it is that we're behind. Is that a fair assessment of your intent?
That's correct. Again, the reason, as I understand, AMO has brought forward this proposed resolution. They have had discussion groups and had input from the various members of the AMO board and members on that issue, and I think they have put forward a one-page resolution that does address the issues, and with the specific request to have the province reconsider its proposed changes.
Okay, very good. I'm going to assume that you will move this resolution. I think probably I should read it into the record for the sake of completion. Here, it's not short, so I'm going to be like reading from the phone book, and Councillor Johnston's going to be asking me to read it a second time. I can hear it already. But let's have a look at this resolution, colleagues. Whereas the Ontario Municipal Employees Retirement System, or OMERS pension fund, serves over 1,000 employers and over 500,000 employees and retirees from diverse groups, including municipal governments, school boards, libraries, police and fire departments, children's aid societies, and electricity distribution companies. And whereas the long-standing jointly sponsored governance model with 2 corporate boards has provided stability, accountability, and fairness for both plan members and employers for more than two decades. And whereas the Government of Ontario has passed legislative changes to OMERS governance structure through Bill 68, whereas these changes would replace the current OMERS Sponsors Corporation with a new Sponsors Council that would lose its corporate status and independent resources. And whereas the proposed model could allow pension decisions affecting municipal employers and employees to be made without meaningful municipal oversight, increasing financial risk for municipalities and local taxpayers. And whereas municipalities are already under significant financial strain and cannot absorb additional pension costs without consequences for property taxes or local services. Therefore, be it resolved that the municipality of North Perth does not support the legislative changes to the OMERS Act contained in Bill 68, and requests that the Government of Ontario reconsiders the advisability of proceeding with these changes. Further, be it resolved that the Municipality of North Perth Council supports the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, or AMO, in calling on the Government of Ontario to maintain the current OMERS governance model with 2 corporate boards as the structure that would best deliver on the long-term interests of municipalities, taxpayers, and employees. Be it further resolved that this resolution be circulated to the Honourable Rob Flack, Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs, the Honourable Peter Bethlen-Falvey, Minister of Finance, Matthew Ray, MPP for Perth Wellington, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. Moved by Councillor Rothwell. Can I call for a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Blazek. Thank you. Any discussion or debate on this? I'm not seeing any. If we can queue up something there, thank you. Let's have that vote. And that was quickly carried. Thank you. Anything else from the consent agenda before we consider the covering resolution? Not seeing anything, so the resolution for the consent agenda as follows: that consent item 7.1 to 7.12 be received for information, and the minutes of the January 26, 2026 regular council meeting be adopted. Moved by Councillor Johnston, seconded by Councillor Nordum. Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried as well. Thank you very much, colleagues. At this time, it's proposed that we move to agenda item number 8. We will now receive a delegation from one with interest in our council's business or authority. I'll remind the delegation that in accordance with this council's procedural bylaw, a total time of 10 minutes per delegation is permitted for your presentation, which will be followed at the chair's discretion by an opportunity for councillors to ask questions. Delegation is to present on the topic declared on the submitted request form for delegations, and deviations from the topic are not acceptable to the chair or this council. Decorum is required. Further to my usual request, we should maintain an atmosphere of respect and courtesy by not, sorry, I'll find my words, using the names of those who've not consented to such use. Our delegation tonight is by Heather Brewer, a resident of Listowel who wishes to address item 11.4 on tonight's agenda. Ms. Brewer, welcome. Please come forward. There's a button you should press on the middle of the microphone.
How's that?
Perfect.
Perfect. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Kaysenberg and Council. My name is Heather Brewer, and I am a longtime resident of Listowel. I'm attending Council tonight as a delegation regarding correspondence item 11.4, which is later on the agenda, which is a request for wayfinding signage from the Huron Shores ATV Club. I know that the correspondence will be covered in detail later, but I did want to start with just a general idea of the request, which is to allow the ATV Club to put up signs, various roads in North Perth, so that ATVs can connect from Huron Shores, generally in the area of Kurtzville, over to Listowel. The roads being requested for signage include roads in the northwest area of North Perth. So if you envision the Steve Kerr Memorial Arena, Westfield School, the roads specifically named include Road 165, line 87, Road 175, and Binning Street. And there are some simple maps in the correspondence, which I'm sure will be covered later. My delegation and my purpose here this evening is just to remind Council that we do have an off-road vehicle bylaw in place, which was passed in 2021, that does permit off-road vehicles to use most roads and highways in North Perth, but importantly, with certain exceptions and restrictions. And in particular, I want to highlight one of the general provisions of the bylaw, which I'm going to read out in full now, just so that we have it on the record. It's item 3.7 in the bylaw. No person shall operate an off-road vehicle near a school during the hours of 8 o'clock a.m. to 4:30 p.m. during the school year. So that's basically 7 days a week, most of the daylight hours till 4:30 in the afternoon, from September to the end of June. The bylaw, just to refresh, also sets out fines to encourage compliance with the restrictions, and those fines are in section 5.4 of the bylaw. So my main concern is that the proposed Binning Street section has both Westfield Elementary School, that's a very large elementary school for Listowel, with a student population of about 750 students in grades junior kindergarten to grade 8, as well as the adjacent North Perth Early Years Center, which provides care for infants through to preschool. So the use of Binning Street as an ATV wayfinding entry point into Listowel is problematic for me, since I think that it's unlikely that the signage could be complete enough in any way to also include the ATV use restrictions that I've just described to you. Even though these restrictions are clearly in place through our bylaw. And presumably, these restrictions were put into the bylaw in the first place with a very good reason, that being to provide a safe school environment, local area, and prevent incidents involving our student population. Even outside of the school hours, for example, in the summer and the evenings, though, I'm not convinced that Binning Street is the best entry point for ATVs into the Listowel community, given the other recreation areas that are in that general area. I mentioned the arena, the soccer field, the future dog park, the open space that exists in that location. So I'm here asking council to carefully consider the potential conflict that would be created by approving signage that would direct ATVs along Binning Street when that same street already has ATV use restrictions in place through the bylaw. It would be very difficult to ensure that these time of use restrictions are well known to all potential ATV users, especially if those ATV users are coming from outside of North Perth and are unfamiliar with our requirements. I'm also asking council to obtain further information before a decision is made on the correspondence. For example, have other ATV wayfinding signage routes been considered? What are the advantages and disadvantages of different routes? How does the entry point connect to the businesses that ATVs would use, such as fuel stations and restaurants? So these are just some of the questions that come to my mind. But then I step back from these detailed questions and go to the 10,000 foot level perspective to ask, what would this signage actually achieve? Since mostly all roads in North Perth allow ATV use, and that's through the bylaw that exists, why is there a need for designation signs on certain roadways at all? So I certainly appreciate this opportunity to highlight our existing off-road vehicle bylaw. I think there's some important parts of that existing bylaw that certainly relate to the ATV wayfinding signage request that will be coming forward later in the evening. And I really encourage council to carefully consider some of these items before making any decision. And with that, Mayor Kaysenberg, I'd be pleased to try and answer any questions, comments, or concerns with my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Brewer. Colleagues, any questions or comments at this point? We can save the debate for a little bit later, but if you have questions of the delegate. Okay, I don't think there are any questions. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you for your time.
All right, that brings us to item 9 on our agenda, reports from departments and department leads. First, let's consider an item from the operations department as item 9.1 on our agenda. In item 9.1.1, council is presented with the results of a procurement that has sourced a new grader to replace one at the end of life that is stationed in Atwood. We call on Manager of Operations Matt Ropp to walk us through this item and the unique procurement path that is being proposed here. I think we'll see more of that. Welcome, Mr. Ropp.
Good evening, Mayor Kaysenberg, and the rest of council. Before you tonight, staff are seeking to replace the 2005 John Deere grader operating out of our Atwood shop. As the mayor noted, this unit is reaching its end of life and its operating and maintenance costs are escalating. This does increase our risk of downtime during critical road maintenance and winter operations. To maintain current levels of service, staff are proposing the purchase of a new grader similar in size to the current fleet, equipped with snow plow equipment to support ongoing snow removal and road grading. Procurement was completed in accordance with North Perth's procurement bylaw, in particular section 10.11, which does allow for cooperative bid calling. Using this model, after market review, staff determined the best value was through the Canoe Cooperative, or Sourcewell, as the industry name is known, for heavy equipment replacement. The vendor of record is Tormont Industries Limited, who is a Caterpillar dealer. Staff have reviewed the quote in conjunction with the supplier and identified no issues with the identified unit. Financially, this is funded from our 2026 capital project for the Alma grader replacement with an approved budget of $660,000. The quoted unit came in at slightly greater than this amount, approximately $45 more than this, excluding HST. and staff were able to negotiate a trade-in of the current unit of $36,500, bringing the award amount down to $623,544.74. This comes in below the budgeted amount for the unit, and staff are in front of you today requesting approval for the purchase of a Caterpillar grader for a cost of $623,544.74, excluding HST. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Colleagues, questions? Councillor Johnston?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Matt, great report here, and it's glad to see we're moving ahead on stuff like that. How soon can it be delivered? I know we just ordered a fire truck, hoping to get it in 2028, so I'm hoping this is readily available. And if I missed it in there, I wasn't sure if I seen it, but I didn't. If I did, I missed it. So I'm just hoping it's readily available.
Through the mayor, so good news. I don't have the exact delivery date in front of me, but we're hoping to see it this spring yet, which is a little bit unique. Usually we'd be a year or two out for a piece of equipment such as this, but apparently these are in stock, so we're able to get our hands on it sooner than a fire truck, apparently.
Thank you. Anything further? Councillor Nordum?
Thanks, Mayor Kiesenberg, and through you, thanks for the report, Matt. Just curious, like the last couple graders, I believe they went on Gov deals. Did they not do as hot on the auction site, or what's our reasoning from going away from that auction site? Thanks.
Through the mayor, the last unit was also included as a trade-in. So the grader that we purchased in 2023 was included in the purchase price. So I can't speak if that was an option before of using Gov deals. There's a little bit more risk using Gov deals. You're not really truly sure what you can get for the unit. And any trade-in value like a normal vehicle, you can save on some tax there as well. I did talk to my operations supervisor about the trade-in value, and we do feel it's fair for given the age of the unit and the hours that were on it. So we feel that's a fair evaluation.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else with questions? These trade-ins, do they repurpose them? Do they refurb them? Like, what happens to a trade-in?
To answer that, I truly don't know. I'm sure there's a secondary market. I believe in the past, some of our local contractors have purchased used equipment, but again, they're a high risk, high reward kind of piece of equipment. If the engine blows up in it tomorrow, it could be more expensive to replace the engine than what the unit's worth, and that's kind of the boat that we're in right now. Is it's not worth the risk for the municipality to keep such a piece of equipment around, whereas a contractor may be more willing to take on that risk.
Thank you. That was a training moment for Mr. Ropp and myself. All right, I'm not seeing any further questions or comments, so I have a resolution for consideration, and I get to read that wonderful price again. As follows, that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves the award of cooperative purchase of one new motor grader as specified in the provided canoe cooperative quote from vendor Toromont Industries Limited of Concord, Ontario, in the amount up to $623,544.74, excluding HST. I call for a mover. Moved by Councillor Nordum, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Duncan. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you, Mr. Ropp. Let's turn next to item 9.2 on our agenda. This is reports from the Strategic Initiatives Department. Under item 9.2.1, Council tonight receives the report of the Transit Needs Assessment Project with work done by Dillon Consulting. This report was funded by Infrastructure Canada's Rural Transit Solutions Fund, and work covers the needs of both North Perth and our partner in this project, St. Mary's. It's not every day we partner with St. Mary's. I call on Interim Manager of Strategic Initiatives, Lindsay Klein, to speak to this item and to introduce any guests from Dillon who wish to provide us with support in this process. Ms. Klein, it's over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg. Good evening, members of council. I'm pleased to introduce the Transit Needs Assessment Final Report for the Municipality of North Perth. As Mayor Kasenberg mentioned, in 2025, North Perth received funding through Infrastructure Canada's Rural Transit Solutions Fund to undertake a joint transit needs assessment with the town of St. Mary's. Dillon Consulting was retained to complete this work. Over the course of 2025, they conducted research and analysis, reviewed existing services, and engaged with residents, community organizations, and municipal partners. I'd like to thank their team for their work in collaboration with staff, and I'd also like to thank Mike Mosley with the City of Stratford Transit for his input and collaboration throughout the study process. The report confirms that transit needs in North Perth are diverse and highlights the importance of maintaining regional connections, addressing mobility gaps in rural areas, and improving access to employment, education, and services. The recommendations before Council focus on continued partnership and PC Connect, potential refinements to Route 1, and exploration of a targeted replacement service for the former rural route connecting Listowel, Mitchell, and Stratford. These recommendations will guide future planning and funding opportunities, with implementation subject to council direction. With that, we'll invite our consultant Jacob Terry from Dillon Consulting, who's attending remotely tonight, to present the report findings.
Thank you, Lindsay. I'll share my screen briefly. I think you should be able to see, hopefully. Good. Okay. Thank you, everyone, and Mayor and Council for inviting me to speak to the Transit Needs Assessment. It was an interesting project to work on. I'm very excited that we have some new transit services to suggest and recommend. Just going to go over at the start the recap of the project, some priorities of what we heard, key themes, recommendations, short financial summary that's elaborated on further in the report, and some discussion of next steps. So the current status of the project is based on PC Connect, which runs currently. It is a pilot project that is transitioning out of pilot phase with the end of the community transportation grant funding, and requires a clear direction and plan to continue operating service. Some challenges it currently faces are that the rural route, which was discontinued, that previously went on a loop through Stratford, West Perth, North Perth, and Perth East, left severe mobility gaps, particularly in Atwood, Moncton, and for Listowel to Stratford travel. So residents with mobility barriers are unable to get to key appointments or employment opportunities in those areas. So the objective of this project was to identify a sustainable long-term solution which restores rural connections and improves the existing PC Connect network where possible. When we conducted our community engagement, we operated a survey with over 250 responses, and also conducted stakeholder, employer, open house engagement, and council engagement. Key things we heard were the loss of the rural route was felt particularly in Atwood and Moncton, for recent residents that had moved in that relied on it to get to employment and other services in Listowel and Stratford. Significant negative impacts for youth and seniors, including access to social services, employment opportunities, and independence. Commuter needs, particularly from and to Kitchener-Waterloo, including to the GO train, and strong regional connections to both Waterloo region and to Stratford, and an overall preference when we asked about service models for operating fixed routes, continuing the existing service model used today by PC Connect. So our recommendations, our first recommendation is to adjust the existing PC Connect route. Route 1 is has the highest growth of all the PC Connect routes and is quite popular, particularly along the communities between Elmira and Listowel, and provides a good connection in both directions for people working in Listowel that come from Waterloo region and vice versa. Our recommendation is to provide more weekday departures and change the routing within Listowel to have more people live within walking distance of the route, and to better accommodate commuters both to North Perth and to the region of Waterloo, and maintain the essential stops along Highway 86. So today there's 3 daily round trips on weekdays and 4 on Saturdays. In the future, that would be reversed, so 4 on weekdays and 3 on Saturdays. The 3 on Saturdays partly due to the longer trips in Listowel to collect more people in the city, in the community, sorry, on the way to Waterloo. The second recommendation would be installing PC Connect Route 4. So this is a proposed route which would replace part of the formal rural route that would serve Listowel, Atwood, Moncton, Mitchell, and Stratford, addressing a transportation gap along Highway 23 and Highway 8. And that would restore direct access to employment services and services in Stratford, both in Listowel and in Stratford. And this would be a new two-way service along the route, compared to the old rural route. Before, it was 8 weekday daily round trips, and it would be 6 in the future. And there were 3 on Saturdays, and there would still be 3 in the future as well. So 2 fewer weekday trips. And we have a slide here comparing this to the rural route as well. So the former rural route was a one-way alternating service. It would go clockwise and counterclockwise around the north part of Perth County, and was oriented around circulating people through the county to meet in Stratford, and would go through West, Central, and East Listowel. And the new Route 4 would be a two-way service between Listowel, Mitchell, and Stratford, with more direct service than circulating service, oriented around both Listowel and Stratford, and this would go through West, Central, and North Listowel. And this would be 15 daily service hours on weekdays, 8 daily service hours on Saturdays, and there is potential in partnership with the routes in St. Mary's to operate a very limited Sunday or holiday service that could run 2 daily round trips. So it would allow you to do a central morning and afternoon trip to get to another location in Perth County or Waterloo region. And in the future, the Route 4, if it is implemented as recommended, would be expected to be $449,000 a year, compared to the formal rural route, which was $576,000 a year. And this is further broken down on the financial analysis, but that's to operate the whole route. Within Listowel, the Route 1 would go through the south part of Listowel and come up past the Zares up to the Steve Kerr Memorial Complex, where it would terminate. And then the Route 4 would go through Highway 23 along the same alignment to the complex, and then it would go through downtown and the hospital and terminate at the food basics. So the idea between these two routes is to have better walkability to some of the bus routes and provide some limited ability for local travel for people who require it. And particularly if you live in Atwood and Moncton, you'd have direct access to most of the grocery stores or services that are in Listowel along Route 4 especially. So the rationale for these recommendations, generally there's a preference for predictability and reliability that are in the fixed routes. The high demand corridors, highways 23 and 86, are best served by scheduled buses, which guarantee connections. And generally in densely populated corridors, which we are in a township, but there are still people mostly clustered along these highways, you generally have greater ridership growth with fixed routes than you would with an on-demand service. The proposed fare structure would be similar to today, but with shorter distance fares. So $12 for a one-way fare. All the seniors' fares are discounted either between 50 cents and $2. A short distance fare that's $6, and there's a map here that shows how those would be applied. But basically, within North Perth would be $6. Any longer is $12, and trips within just Listowel would be $3. The financial summary, this is for North Perth and West Perth combined. So West Perth has already made suggestions that they would be willing to contribute to this route, and Route 4 would depend on their support as well. Route 1 would be 317 to 345,000 in the future. Route 4, 418 to 449,000 in the future. Administration for a transit coordinator to assist the city of Stratford that would be split between all of the municipalities that are participating in the project. And then revenue from fares, potential to get OTIF funding, which is a 5-year seed funding from the Ontario government to start transit networks. That would go away after year 6, but it would help pay for the system in the first 5 years. And then it would be anticipated that there would be additional gas tax revenue from the increased ridership due to the route. So this provides it at a glance for both municipalities together. For the next steps, it would be recommended to continue managing this through the PC Connect system that is currently operated in the city of Stratford Transit through a shared service agreement, which reduces the administration required from the municipality through a future dedicated transit coordinator position. Further developing the regular transit committee with partner municipalities to oversee the system, working on the OTIF funding application, which the city of Stratford is hoping to begin shortly, finalizing cost sharing agreements in the funding model, and endorsing the service plan, implementing routing and scheduling adjustments. This is the PC Connect system we'll be recommending at a glance. So we'll also be presenting to St. Mary's next week as well for the Route 3 recommendations. But this is where the Route 1 and Route 4 fit into the greater network that we are recommending. That's everything. So we are, thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Great, thank you, Mr. Terry. Ms. Klein, anything further from you at this point? Okay, so that was our presentation tonight on this. Colleagues, questions or first comments? Councillor Rothwell.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. And through you, thank you, Jacob, for your presentation, as well as our staff here as well. We're putting a lot of hope, I guess, in terms of being successful in our application to the province for the grant, the transit grant. And the concern I have is that what is the likelihood that that granting would be more sustainable on an ongoing basis, as opposed to being in the situation we're in currently, where we're trying to bring together different municipalities to operate a system that to help pay for the costs ourselves, as opposed to the province helping, well, totally previously paying for the majority of the system.
Ms. Klein, I'll have a few comments as well. Ms. Klein.
Thank you, Councillor Rothman, for the question. It's kind of hard to speak to the longevity of OTIF and what the future will look like beyond the current program that they have in place right now. But what I can say is that staff continue to advocate to the province for sustainable long-term funding beyond what OTIF currently provides. We had a very successful delegation at Roma last month in partnership with Stratford as well as West Perth. And the Ministry of Transportation seemed very receptive to our comments and our push for more sustainable long-term funding. So we are optimistic in terms of our short-term OTIF application, but we will continue to advocate for longer-term, more sustainable funding through the province.
I think, if I might, Ms. Klein largely stole my comments, but certainly Mayor Ritzman and myself spoke at some length in the delegation with the ministry officials, including the parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Transportation for Ontario, and we received very good signals that, in fact, because of the nature of the collaboration amongst the different municipalities that were at the table, and because of in many ways that sort of sense that rural transit is important. We had staff at least suggest strongly that, in fact, we were good candidates for OTIF and that we should fully submit our application, and that if we needed support from the ministry officials to improve the quality of our application, that we could call on them at their discretion. So it was a fine delegation, as Ms. Klein said. Nothing is long-term right now. Nothing is secure over the long term, and I think that we have to come to grips with the fact that sooner or later this system will have to be financed, quite likely, by local taxpayers. That said, local taxpayers are already accounting for a substantial portion of PC Connect, as you well know, and in fact, Mayor Ritzman and I were very clear in talking with the provincial representatives that we weren't actually asking for them to fund the whole thing or even half the thing. We were asking them for about a 20% contribution. The municipalities have already come forward with significant funds. CAO Snell, did you want to weigh in on this too?
So in talking to the city of Stratford, I understand one of the things with OTIF too is we can structure the grant funding in such a way that it's forward heavy And so therefore, any use of property taxpayers' dollars are near the end of the program, so then that gives us time to build up our reserves to fund a transit system if needed. I hope, like everybody, that the province does recognize they're a key player in the game of rural transit, but in case there is a plan that we can at least build up some revenue to continue to have PC Connect, because I think the, during our discussions, all the municipalities involved recognize that the instability of canceling the rural route in the first place has led to great damage of the system, and we can't have that happen again.
Through you, thanks very much, Mayor Todd, for Lindsay and Chris and yourself, and the work that's been done. My question is, the new news out of Stratford is that an international company called Flixbus, Flixbus, has taken on providing intercity between Stratford and KW, and I believe it's down to London as well. And Flixbus brought up a number of routes from Greyhound, which used to service our municipality, and then after that was Cherry Bus, I believe. Has there been any discussion with any other private companies to help, if not provide service, at least help provide that service? I know operational costs are the same, will be of their concern, and being able to make some sort of profit is the reason why they're in the business. And I'm just wondering, if there's been any consideration of discussing our transit needs in the long term with a company like Flixbus or others. Thank you.
Well, through the mayor, I might defer to Jacob to see if he has any input on exploring the use of some private bus companies through the study.
Through the mayor, the ability of private businesses to take on that risk is you could approach Flixbus or any of those companies to look at that service. They have generally been more risk averse than in the past to operating outside of guaranteed travel corridors where they know that they can get a profit. So the Stratford, London, Kitchener route has via service already, and there's established demand from the fairly high demand from just the route that bus already takes, and because it's also on the way to London. So it's potential that there is potential that someone may be interested in doing the service, but generally at a municipality this size, you're more likely to get success out of operating a publicly funded service, just because there's not generally a high profit corridor that has a very heavy number of passengers taking it. So no, for this study, we mostly looked at the continuing the public service, which was people are familiar with and has a generally higher chance of succeeding in the longer term.
Anyone else with questions or first comments? Councillor Duncan.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I'm just looking at the financial summary. And I know I've heard the city of Stratford in the discussions, but all it shows in the financial summary is operating costs with North Perth and West Perth. Is Stratford making a contribution financially to this as well, or is it just North Perth and West Perth?
So through the mayor, yes, they will be contributing. We are currently in a shared service agreement, so they will be contributing in the future. We still have to work out the details beyond 2026 in terms of the specific amount of who's contributing what. And I'm not sure if Jacob wants to add anything further to that.
Through the mayor, the one that we showed in the presentation is just for brevity was the North Perth and West Perth piece, but the full report would have the Route 3 as well, which is expected to be split at least in part by St. Mary's and Stratford, and then the remaining Route 2, which would go between Stratford and Kitchener, would be expected to be entirely Stratford's responsibility based on the assumptions we have currently and our discussions with the municipalities. But so it would not all be on North Perth, no, and or West Perth.
Anyone else with questions or comments? Councilor Norton.
Thanks, Mark Riesenberg. So the recommendation before us tonight, that's recommendation for Route 1 and Route 4, I believe. Is there a big gap, say, North Perth says, why don't we just do Route 1 and maybe leave Route 4 for another time? Just curious. I know the section between Listowel and KW is quite an essential route, but just paying cost-wise, I think this is going to be quite a big chunk out of our reserves.
Through the mayor, I can start off with Jacob if Jacob wants to jump in after. I think a lot of the feedback we received through our engagement was people missing the former rural route, which is what we're trying to bring back with Route 4. I think that's a key connection between us, Mitchell, and Stratford. And West Perth has indicated their full support for coming on board with this route. So I think at this point, staff are recommending that we move forward with both Route 1 and Route 4.
Let me follow up on this. I think a worthy question that council should hear the answer to is what are we investing now in PC Connect at this moment at the route to KW? And what have we allocated in the budget this year beyond that initial investment for transit system improvements? Whoever would like to answer.
Through the mayor, I don't have the numbers offhand from previously to 2026. For 2026, we have budgeted $180,000, which is enough to continue PC Connect Route 1 as well as get Route 4 up and running, which is what council committed to through the budget process pending our OTIF application. So as of 2026, we've committed $180,000.
Okay. Steve, do you have any recollection roughly of what we've paid in previous years to keep Route 1 ticket share alive and low?
So in 2025, I believe we budgeted $160,000. We every year the city of Stratford has projected a budget limit for us, depending on ridership, depending on how the grant money works out. We have not always reached our full budget, so we actually put those money in reserves and hopefully an allocation that we need to have money in the future to either finish the year out or add to the service that we have available. But we can bring you back a full accounting of that budget if you like. I don't have the total numbers off the top of my head, but it was in Ashton's budget presentation earlier. So, and I think right now, I think, if I'm wrong, we're just asking tonight the council to give us a direction to go ahead and apply for OTIF funding. So really, whether we're successful or not, we'll have to come back if we're unsuccessful to look at Route 4. Right. And I mean, back in the napkin math, and I'm reflecting my own back of the napkin math. If we were ourselves to fund with West Perth and with Stratford, the new route, is it 1? Is it 4? I get the numbers right, thank you. If we were to fund the new Route 4, that's probably out of our own coffers, somewhere around 1% of the budget, roughly. So, for the sake of service and so forth, it's a discussion the council needs to have, certainly. But the impact on a budget increase is not as dramatic as one would think in future years. Anyone else? Comments, questions?
So as CEO Snell said, we're not making a firm decision to fund it ourselves tonight. We're making a decision to ask staff to advance the OTIF application in conjunction with West Perth and St. Mary's and Stratford. Everyone aligned with what we're doing here? Okay, so we have the resolution for our consideration as follows. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth endorses the recommendations of the Transit Needs Assessment for the Municipality of North Perth as prepared by Dillon Consulting Limited, and that staff be directed to bring future implementation requirements and financial implications to the 2027 budget process. So that's down the road. It doesn't say anything about authorizing the OTIF application unless that's implied in the second statement. Did you want to comment on that, Ms. Klein, just so that Council has comfort?
Council has actually previously given staff direction to proceed with the notice application earlier this year.
So we're not reconsidering that at this point. We just now know what the shape of that is. All right. Everyone with me? All right. Can you call for a mover? Councillor Anstey. Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Roth. Any discussion or debate? Councillor Roth.
Thanks very much, Mayor Todd. And through you, perhaps Lindsay could inform us again about the OTIF grant. Is that for a 1 year, or is it, and then we could be eligible for subsequent years? Is that the way it works? And how much is the amount again, please?
Through the mayor to Councillor Rothwell, so it's up to 50% of costs to, I can't remember the maximum amount. I want to say, I don't want to give you the wrong number, but it's up to 50% of project costs over 5 years. And typically what they do is they'll do 80% the first year, 60% the next year, 40% the next year. They'll kind of dwindle it down. So then eventually the municipality takes over the full cost.
Okay. Anyone else with discussion, debate on this matter? All right, I've not seen anyone. It's duly moved and seconded. Let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. To staff and to the consultant, we appreciate the work that was done there. All right, that moves us along to item 10 on our agenda. Does any member of council wish to ask for a report from staff or from one of our committees? I'm not seeing any expression of interest there. Let's turn to item 11. We've received 4 items of correspondence beyond those shared in the consent agenda for council's action. As item 11.1, we have received a request for an exemption to the municipality's so-called noise bylaw at the Steve Kerr Memorial Complex on March 20th and 21st as part of the annual Paddy Fest activities happening on those occasions. In our council package was a letter from the requester, and I have a resolution that would allow us to act permissively if council should be willing. Is council willing to consider that resolution? All right, as follows. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves an exemption to any timing regulations found in the noise bylaw for Paddy Fest events being held on Friday, March 20th, 2026, and Saturday, March 21st, 2026, and the Council directs staff to advise OPP and bylaw enforcement of this exemption. Can I call for a mover? Moved by Councillor Blazek, seconded by Councillor Duncan. Thank you. Any discussion or debate on this one? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. We're going to have a party, folks. Let's move on to 11.2, also related to Paddy Fest. We have received a request for road closures and the appropriate notifications for the Paddy Fest parade proposed to be held on March 21st, starting at 11 a.m. in downtown Lister. Our council package again has a letter from the requester, and I have a resolution for consideration as follows. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves the road closure request from the Kinsman Club of Lister for the 2026 Paddy Fest parade to be held on Saturday, March 21st, 2026, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. along the following route: marshalling along Maitland Avenue South, west along Main Street to Livingston Avenue, and ending on Livingston Avenue South. Can I call for a mover on this? Councillor Johnston, thank you, and Councillor Rothwell as our seconder. Any discussion or debate on this one? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Let's turn next to item 11.3. We have received a request for road closures and various notifications for the annual Character Run fundraiser, proposed to be held on Thursday, May 28th, 2026, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. in the environs of the Steve Kerr Arena in Lister. In our council package was a letter from the requester, and I've had staff prepare a resolution proposing to grant this permission that reads as follows. That the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves the request from the North Perth Community of Character to close the following roads from 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. on Thursday, May 28th, 2026 for the 15th Annual Character Run. Reading Street West from the entrance of the Steve Kerr Memorial Complex to Road 165 and Road 165 from Perth Line 86 to Line 87. And that North Perth Fire, Public Works, OPP, and Perth County EMS be advised of the event. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Johnston says yes. Councillor Norman will be our seconder on this one. Any discussion or debate on this one? I know certainly, if I might, there's been some apprehension by neighbors on the 165. At points in the past, I think we saw in the correspondence that some due care was given to try to figure out whether they could change that route or better accommodate the neighbors, and they seem quite committed, from what I can tell from the correspondence, in making sure that the neighbors along that route are aware of the impacts from traffic on that occasion. Councillor Rothwell.
Thanks very much, Mayor Todd. I agree. That's my understanding from the correspondence. I believe this is the perhaps the fourth year that they've had this route. So my understanding is that they have had discussions with annual discussions with those property owners to address the concerns. I'm not sure if staff could let us know if there's any concerns that they were aware of last year, but my understanding is that things proceeded far better than they did the first year. That there was not the same level of communication. That's what I understand. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm seeing Mr. Roth nod his head vigorously. So, did you wish to speak, or are you confirming that things are a little bit more hunky-dory with the neighbors?
Just to confirm for the mayor, we did talk about this last year with the committee. Asked them to be a little bit more proactive in engaging the neighbors and residents along 165, which they did. I didn't hear anything negative from the event last year, as they're looking to work with the community members to make everyone aware of what's going on and what the restrictions are on 165 for that 2-hour window.
Great, thank you, Mr. Roth. Anyone else at this point? All right, this is duly moved and seconded. Let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. And now for item 11.4, we have received a request from Recurrent Shores ATV Club to install at their cost small trail marking signs in support of wayfinding for ATV users in the environs of Listowel. In our council package was a letter from the requester. I have had prepared for me a support resolution, but I think we should call council before we consider a formal resolution on this. Where would you like to go, colleagues, to have a proposal? Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we should look at deferring this to the next council meeting, and I wonder if we should get the Huron Shores ATV Club to potentially talk to the operations manager to look at the best routes. I think we need to try to find a way to accommodate this, because if you look at we got to start looking at this as an economic boost to our community. If you look around our restaurants on a Friday night or a Saturday night when the snowmobiles are in town, it's standing room only. And 80% of the patrons in there have snowmobile suits on. And I think the ATVs are going to be much the same. Gas stations, restaurants, the whole shebang. So I think we need to work with them to find the best route out there possible. If, and I know we have schools on the way and out of town everywhere. So I wonder if through the operations manager could sit down with the ATV club and once again try to find a workable solution. My suggestion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Blazik, looks like you have a comment to make too.
Thank you through you, Mayor Kiesenberg. I agree that we very much need to find a workable solution for the ATV club to be able to access, especially since you know we we had suggested as much to them that they bring some suggestions to us for wayfinding signage when we were having discussions about whether or not they should be on the on the trail. And so I think that in good faith we need to figure out a way to make this work. I agree that we should defer and have them talk to the operations department. My other suggestion is, now that the bylaw has been brought to our attention, thank you, Heather, that perhaps we need to look at the wording of our bylaw. No person shall operate an off-road vehicle near a school during the hours of 8 to 4:30 p.m. during the school year. What does near a school mean? Does does it during the school year include Saturdays and Sundays? Maybe we need some clarification on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Duncan, I saw you kind of vaguely waving your hand earlier, so let's hear from you.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mayor. I agree with both the councillors spoke previously. We definitely need to work with the club to find a good way in and out. I guess one of my concerns is the gun club road is going to be part of the truck bypass at some point. So not greatly compatible to have ATV traffic up and down a road that's going to have more truck traffic on it. So I think that we need to have our mans of operations work with the club to find a good way in and out that's not going to put anybody in harm's way.
Okay, Councillor Hanson.
Yeah, just briefly through your Mayor Kiesenberg, thank you. And that was actually a good point, Councillor Duncan. I wanted to talk about the truck bypass as well, but also if Matt could possibly talk to other communities and see what they've done for something like this. I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel, but I think we just want to have a basis for going forward. Again, looking at other communities and what they've done. Thank you.
Okay. Everyone wants a piece of this. All right, Councillor Roth.
Thanks very much, Mayor Todd, and thanks, councillors, for the comments. I want to thank Doug and Heather for drawing the matter to their attention. I believe that we have a couple of members of the ATV club here this evening, and I believe that when we were having those discussions regarding possible use of the request to use the North Perth Trail, I believe I said specifically, and I believe council agreed, that we were going to undertake discussions with the ATV club regarding signage to make sure that it was a safe and appropriate route so that ATVers could get from the listable area specifically out to the outlying trail connections. So I'm certainly in favor of what's being proposed here for discussions with our staff, and hopefully the ATV representatives are also willing to do so, Mr. Mayor. And hopefully we can do that sooner rather than later, and also to increase our understanding in terms of the bylaws, Councillor Blazek has mentioned. I'd certainly be in favor of that. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Nordholm, are you going in on this game too, or? That's great. He's saying no, he's good so far. All right. I think it sounds like an alternative resolution that we could consider. It sounds like guest colleagues, as always, if you find editorial improvements, happy to have them. The Council of the Municipality of North Perth directs staff to explore possibilities for appropriate routing and necessary logistics for on-road vehicles, as proposed by the Huron Shores ATV Club, and that the Council directs staff to consider and bring forward a report on possible refinements to the off-road vehicle bylaw, considering specifically issues of timing allowances and route permissions and denials. Sound okay? Just put blah, 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 and we'll fill it in later. It's written down. I'm being warned again, yes. All right. Who would like to be the mover of this one? Councillor Johnston looked like he'd like to go. Councillor Duncan wants to be their seconder for this one. I think I know where this vote might be going, so let's have that vote. Councillor Johnston, welcome to the painful club of East Crib. Oh, Councillor Nordholm, he might have slipped through. There we go. Okay. And we have unanimity on that one. Thank you, colleagues. Appreciate the collaboration there in terms of finding a path through this. Okay, at this point, we do turn to consideration of bylaws that have been recommended to us for action. Tonight we have 3 that were on the agenda. The enabling resolution does outline for each bylaw their number and purpose. But before I go to the resolution, there is an opportunity for us to extract any of these for more fulsome consideration or an individual or recorded vote. Colleagues, do any of you wish to extract any of these 3 bylaws before we consider an omnibus resolution? I'm not seeing any expression of interest in that, so let's move forward as follows. The bylaw 126-2025 be read a 3rd time and be finally passed, and that the following bylaws are hereby passed. 9-2026 being a bylaw to authorize the signing of a transfer payment agreement with His Majesty the King in right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Infrastructure. I'll get it right, wrong ministry. I'd love to have agriculture money too. And 10-2026 being a bylaw to authorize the signing of a storm sewer easement agreement with HIEH Family Holdings Inc. Who will be our mover? Councillor Anstep, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Duncan. I think I saw Jennifer Rod in the head. So we'll take it. I'll take it. If you move your head, you're in for trouble. All right. Any discussion or debate on these items? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Let's turn our attention to item 13 then. Does any councillor wish to leave to give notice of motion for our next meeting? That's a no. Let's turn to item 14 on our agenda. Are there any announcements that would be of benefit to our community or that reflect love on North Perth at this time? Those in the chamber, of course, may raise their hands, be placed on the speaking list. If we have anyone connected remotely, which I don't think we do anymore, they too could have a say. Anyone wishing to make an announcement? Not seeing that tonight. Brings us to item 15. There is nothing for us to do in a closed session meeting of council tonight, which means for item 16, there's nothing to report about because we did not hold a closed session. Council has mandated good practice acts near the end of its meeting agenda to confirm all of its actions and business of its meeting through what is called the confirmatory bylaw. I will now read the enabling resolution for our confirmatory bylaw number 11 as follows. The bylaw 11-2026 being a bylaw to confirm generally previous actions of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth is hereby passed. Can I call for a move? Councillor Rothwell and Councillor Nordham as our seconder. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Colleagues, for our bylaws that touch on provincial priorities considered and passed at tonight's meeting, I am in support and will not execute a veto. This information will be provided to the clerk as part of my required duties as mayor. We have now completed deliberation and taken action on the business that has come before us tonight. It is thus appropriate for us to consider adjournment, and I have a resolution to that effect as follows. The council meeting adjourns at 8:13 p.m. to meet again for general council business on Monday, February 23rd, 2026 at 7 p.m. Can I call for a mover? Councillor Johnston nods his head. So moved. Councillor Anstett is our seconder. It's not debatable. Let's have that vote. And that is carried, colleagues. Our next regular council meeting is Monday, February 25th at